Do other people's perks affect your gameplay experience? Okay, so I think this is I think this is a question that is more so asking if you're getting tilted or maybe getting toxic over someone else's team perks or something like that. Or if somebody has a bad team perk, maybe you play worse or something. I think this is a pretty interesting question to ask. I'm going to go into the comments, obviously, to see how people take this. However, the way I am taking this is at all. Like, right now, if I jump into an operation, if I see somebody without a team perk, I will say that does negatively affect my gameplay experience because we are losing out on a buff that we should have. But when it comes to, like, if someone's using a team perk I wouldn't personally use, but they're on my team, as long as I can find some use for it, I'm fine with it. I don't really care. Like, honestly, if you have, like, melee champion on your fully leveled Vanguard or something, and for whatever reason I'm using tactical, I'll find some use out of that melee champion for tactical. Even with sniper, I'll find some use for it if I was just going pure sniper. But yeah, I mean, overall, when it comes to team perks, I think people really do need to be a little bit more careful with it recently. Especially recently. I've never seen so many players just ignore unmatched zeal before. I've seen players recently, in absolute, use their guns, their primary weapons, to take down executionable majors and extremists. I also have seen people, like, steal terminus executions from people who needed healing from unmatched zeal. So as far as the question, it feels like there's a fair amount of people, I mean, maybe a small percentage, but a fair amount, of people who aren't even paying attention to team perks at the moment, which is insane. But okay, in what sense? Is it noticeable and nice if someone runs extremist healing on Vanguard? Yes. Do I prefer it if people run these perks? Of course. Am I bothered if they don't run them? No. People in the game they paid for on the character they leveled can select the perks they want. Yeah, I agree. I agree for the most part, 100%. I think basically the problem comes in when you are joining something very difficult like hard siege mode, and then you see somebody with team perks, or perhaps they're not even leveled up for it, so they don't even have the option for other team perks. So I think it definitely comes down to the details, 100%. Like, if they're fully leveled in hard siege mode, yeah, they can use whatever team perks they want for the most part. But yeah, you also can't blame people for leaving a hard siege mode if you're using team perks that maybe aren't going to be very relevant. It all depends. It all depends. Again, most of the stuff goes both ways. It should always go both ways, I guess. But yeah, if you join a game and, like, you're not expected to play with people with bad team perks, just like how people with bad team perks aren't expected to pick things they don't want to use. So that's what I mean by go both ways. So you can't force people to play with players who don't know what they're doing, but you also can't force players who don't know what they're doing to do things that they don't know about. So yeah, it's a rather tricky conundrum, joining something like Absolute 2.0 or Hard Siege Mode and seeing somebody with a team perk that you perhaps might not get a lot of use out of. I think it's always worth trying out at the very least for Hard Siege Mode. You can do waves 1 through 5, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You can always leave. But yeah, let's continue. Would I rather see them run a perk? Oh, would I rather see them run perk A instead of B because A is better benefit for the team? Yep. Does them not picking A affect my play experience in any way? No, not really. Yeah, I mean, overall, I guess it depends. Like, dude, here's the thing. If they pick a bad team perk and they're good, then it won't affect your gameplay experience. If they pick a bad team perk and they keep dying, the team perk, even though it could be improved, there's probably a good chance they're going to keep dying with a good team perk as well. So what is actually affecting your gameplay experience there isn't so much the team perk, it's about your teammate dying a lot. That does affect my gameplay experience, because if my teammates die, I'm picking up more aggro for it. So in hard siege mode, that's going to be negative. That is going to be a negative gaming experience, essentially. But yeah. But yeah, overall, I agree. Like, we've talked about meta team perks and, like, how you should react if your team isn't using them. it really doesn't matter as far as if they have unmatched zeal, they're not going to get carried by it. If they're bad with unmatched zeal, they're still bad. It doesn't matter what team perk they have, you know what I mean? If you struggle because their teammates didn't pick the meta, you need to improve, not your teammate. I mean, I think the only meta perk that actually can potentially make bad players good would be Secure Stockpile. But even in this scenario, a bad player wouldn't even pick up the Melta. You know, like, again, I'm seeing players basically not take Unmatched Zeal. Well, not by not take the team perk. I mean, literally not get executions to heal themselves. I think it's very random right now. And obviously, I have players who I'm queuing with players who know what they're doing. But when you're queuing up with somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, it's very much less about their team perk and more about the decisions they are making. Yeah, like, dude, seriously, I've seen a heavy with a plasma heavy just full-blown, full charge shot, just destroy a executionable Lictor while we had unmatched zeal, and it was so weird looking. It was so weird looking. They 100% needed healing too, so I don't know. Hey, how does this work if players, like, how does this question work if you're a player who notices somebody has unmatched zeal but you don't take advantage of it? Is that affecting your gameplay experience? Yeah, it probably is, doesn't it? If you're not actually taking advantage of the stronger team perk, I think that's going to affect your gameplay for sure. The moment I get the option to swap off that 10% cooldown reduction on Assault is amazing, as increasing Extremis Terminus melee damage or Gunstrike damage is so much better. I mean, I agree. I 100% agree. Dude, they should buff Squad Cohesion. Squad Cohesion, I believe, is the cooldown reduction perk for, you know, for the Assault class. I think they should buff this. They should buff this, but at the same time, it is kind of like not that good anyway. So, I mean, if they buff it to like 20%, I think that's fine. That's probably pretty good, to be completely honest. 10% cooldown reduction isn't a lot, with the conditional cooldown reduction perks being better and faster to fulfill versus a straight passive cooldown reduction. Yeah, especially for the Assault class. Isn't there a, they have the Jetpack cooldown reduction for 20% built into their perk tree already. So, like, the 10% ability cooldown really isn't even, it doesn't age well at all. I think this is definitely a perk that could 100% be buffed. Dude, honestly, this perk not only could be buffed, could be reworked to do something for the Assault that no other perk does on the Assault. The Assault itself already has cooldown reduction. Same for, like, almost every other class. So, it is kind of interesting to see that, yeah, this might be the one team perk really holding back the Assault class at the moment. But yeah, 100% strategic strikes, very good for the class. And then, yes, having extra gun strike damage for the entire team, very, very good. I mean, objectively, yes. Do I care? Absolutely not. If someone needs their teammates to be running meta builds to be able to perform, that's their problem, and they might simply need to drop to a lower difficulty. There's no shame in this, but there is shame in trying to police the builds of others. It's sad and unnecessary. The game's not that hard. Okay, I mean, dude, honestly, this is a fair take. As far as the game being that hard, I think that's obviously subjective. Pretty sure that really depends on exactly what you're detailing here is the builds and not to mention their experience. But yeah, I mean, this is fair. This is 100% fair. He's definitely pointing out the reality that if you do queue in with somebody, no matter what difficulty, if you queue in with somebody who doesn't have a team perk, yeah, the fact that they chose not to have a team perk, that is objectively affecting your experience in the game. But, like, do I care? Absolutely not. Yeah, the point where you care is when you are actually trying to do something challenging. If you're jumping into Absolute 2.0, you're jumping into Siege mode or something, somebody not having a team perk could be the difference between victory and defeat. And that's definitely going to affect your gameplay experience. But ultimately, yeah, you're really only going to care if it's something you didn't do yet. But I feel like that's kind of semantics, you know what I mean? 100%, them having a certain team perk, whether it's good or bad or not a team perk at all, is 100% going to affect your experience. I don't think somebody having a good team perk is ever going to affect my experience in a bad way, but still, it affects my experience in a good way. If someone needs their teammates to be running meta builds to be able to perform, that's their problem, and they might simply need to drop to lower a difficulty. Wait, hold on. Um, I'm pushing back on that. It's not so much about if someone needs their teammates to be running meta. It's the you should be running a strong build in tough content. So if I see a Vanguard who's level 10 with melee champion and absolute, the issue there is their level. So the expectation is let's say they're not prestiged at all, right? So they're level 10 in absolute. The expectation here is, hey, it's absolute. You should actually have a strong build. I don't care if you're using melee champion, but I know you're level 10 without prestige perks, and you might not even have relic weapons. That is going to 100% negatively affect the team, unless they're just super good. But chances are they're not. I've never seen that, okay? I've seen more people be level 20 without team perks than I've seen somebody level 10, not prestige, with a bad team perk and performing well in absolute. I've never seen that. And also by the way, melee champion is actually a pretty good team perk. I still think though, if you're playing melee Vanguard, Unmatched Zeal, or Inner Fire are going to be better for you. But I guess it depends. Because yeah, you can always have Adrenaline Rush, and with a melee build, melee champion is still going to be pretty good. But yeah, it's less about requiring a meta and more about the expectation of the challenge you are jumping into. Again though, yeah, if I jump into hard siege mode and I see a level 25 prestige 4 Vanguard with melee champion, I'll jump in and see how it goes, you know what I mean? But obviously Unmatched Zeal is going to be a huge component down the line. So they're correct to use melee champion, but if I don't think melee champion's enough, nothing stops me from leaving the game at wave 10. You know what I mean? So but ultimately what gets me to leave the game at wave 10 is them dying. You know what I mean? I don't leave wave 10 if they're playing well. I only leave wave 10 if my entire team's like super struggling and it's like, oh wow, we definitely needed Unmatched Zeal. Yeah, it's time to requeue. But yeah, so it's not so much about asking my teammates to run meta builds for my benefit. It's more so about them running meta builds for the team's benefit. See, that's the other thing we really have to start, I feel like, detailing out here. It's less about my experience and more about the team experience. Now, with the question here, that question is fairly accurate to ask if a bad team perk or your teammate's team perk in general affect your gameplay experience and they do. they do, but I feel like it's a lot easier to negatively affect people's gameplay experience by just not having a team perk. If you have Unmatched Zeal, but you still can't take out any extremists, Unmatched Zeal is not going to do a lot for you, right? So I think Secure Stockpile is actually kind of in a league of its own when it comes to this conversation, to be completely honest. Let's say I join Absolute 2.0, and the tactical's using Physiology, and I'm playing Bulwark. That's actually where I feel like this conversation starts to get a little bit critical, because if you're playing tactical, it really depends if you queue into the match. You know what I mean? Like, if you just join a match as a tactical with Physiology and you happen to join 2 melee classes, that's unfortunate. Honestly, your team perk might not do a lot there, unfortunately. It really depends, but it probably won't. But however, if you're in the battle barge and you notice the assault class and the bulwark class, you probably should go back to the battle barge and switch your team perk depending on the difficulty. If it's absolute, Secure Stockpile is going to give those melee classes a little bit more room to operate. So I just have a hard time believing that somebody should be like, you know what, I'm going to pick a bad team perk because I want that team perk. It's like, I mean, oh sheesh, I guess picking the team perk, if your intention is to pick a bad team perk, I think, yeah, you're negatively affecting their gameplay experience on purpose, and you don't have the right to do that, essentially. And the teammates do have a right to leave. But yeah, if you're like, I actually really need Physiology to stay a little bit tankier, that's fair. It's worth a run. Honestly, you don't really lose anything from jumping into a run and failing, besides time, so I understand that's probably a sensitive resource when it comes to loading screens in this game. I get it. So Honestly, yeah, it really just comes down to just a little bit more understanding. Nobody wants to jump into Absolute just to go through loading screens. So if you, for whatever reason, you're playing tactical and you notice you have some melee teammates, and you're at the battle barge, probably switch to a better team perk, because your current team perk might negatively affect their gameplay experience in the sense that they could be stronger. So, I mean, not to mention, wouldn't you want your teammates not to be a detriment? So that's also another part of this gameplay experience thing, is like, if you pick a bad team perk, you're performing well with it, but your teammates keep dying, that's still going to give you a negative gameplay experience, because you're going to feel like you're going to feel like you need to carry, but it's like you're not really in a position for it because the build you have just isn't like that meta. So it's an interesting conversation to have, I think. Ultimately though, obviously the answer is yes. Your teammates' team perks 100% affect your gameplay experience. Should you care? Only during the correct circumstances. And even in this case, if you care that much, you should either leave and find another game to play. Not like a full other game, holy cow. But yeah, like find a queue up for another lobby or something. Because there is a bit of responsibility. If you don't like something that's going on in your team, there's a bit of responsibility for your actions as well. If you don't like it, you can just go and find another team. You know what I mean? If you're sticking through a team that you don't like their team perks with, and you're having a bad experience and then get toxic over, that's kind of your fault, man. You knew you didn't like those team perks. Dude, recently, this very relevant. Recently I was doing an Absolute run. I noticed we started struggling a little bit on like the second Terminus enemy, and I didn't know why. One of our teammates left, so our team synergy was different, and then B, when I saw we were pretty much all dead, when I looked at our teammates, the one Bulwark who was level 13 with Focus Restoration was not prestiged. I assumed that this Bulwark, underleveled with Focus Restoration, was at least prestiged. So this is a level 13 base Bulwark in Absolute who died. Yeah, so Focus Restoration, good team perk, but it's more about the fact that this Bulwark was underleveled, and I didn't notice. I would have left. I would have left immediately when I noticed they were level 13. 100%. Like, dude, sheesh, man. When it comes to Absolute and low levels, y'all gotta get out. I don't care if they were level 13 Prestige, like 3, Prestige 2, maybe even Prestige 1. I wouldn't be bothered, but the fact that they ended up going down is what really pointed out to me that they weren't prepared for that difficulty. So, I mean, you can use a bad team perk all you want, but if you keep going down, it's not going to change the fact that you probably should have a better team perk. But yeah, this is an interesting conversation as far as circumstances go. But yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. Did you ever see a team perk that negatively affected your gameplay experience? Do you think team perks in general have a large effect on your gameplay experience? But yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. Thanks for watching.